Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Canton III, and we are back for a special episode because we have a special guest with us. But first, let me introduce the super producer, Jake Christie. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing well. This episode's been a few weeks in the making. I'm excited to finally talk to this person about this exciting project. You can read the title of this episode so you know what the nouns that I'm leaving out are.
And yes, and just to delay this just a few more seconds, patreon.com/MCUniversityPod, where you could get all of our bonus content. Our subscriber mailbag for December is already out. We have F9, Fast and the Furious Saga. We are continuing that later this month, and a couple of extra bonus things for the holiday season. And of course, $3 to get into the Discord and $3 to get our entire back catalog. $8 to have an opportunity to be a subscriber mailbag participant. So appreciate everybody for supporting in the meantime. But yes, our guest. It's been a while since she's been on, and since that time that she's been on, my goodness gracious, what a journey she's been on. How do I describe this? It's kind of like where, I guess in Marvel terms, I don't know if this is like Jean Grey Phoenix type of situation. I don't know if it's a Monica Rambeau finding all of her powers situation. There's a whole lot of stuff going on with this person. That's Stephanie Williams, who you see right there. She is the writer of Strange and Unsung All-Stars of the DC Multiverse, out in stores now. Go get that book, please. Please do so. Stephanie, welcome back. It is a pleasure.
I am happy to be here. And folks, I'm wearing these headphones even though my stuff is not working the way that it should. So these are now for aesthetic purposes only. But I'm happy to be here despite now I'm irritated. I'm sorry. These damn headphones not working has me irritated. But anyway, I'm just so happy to be back and talking to you guys, and also to talk about this very obscene book that almost sent me to the DC nut house, because I felt like I was gonna be right next to the Joker in Arkham Asylum after working on that.
I'm looking forward to getting into the process of that book. But first, I wanted to ask you, it has truly been a while since you've been here. So
Yeah.
what's gone on in your world? How would you describe the past couple of years of your life as it's kind of taken on? You got Nubia and the Amazons, wonderful series there. And you write every single little thing and big thing under Marvel and DC. You've taken kind of every corner. You're gathering Infinity Stones like Thanos. It's been pretty impressive to watch this entire time. I mean, even the voice work that you did for, I mean, just for example, something like Merry Little Batman, which I watched with my kids last week and really had a great time watching. You're doing stuff with the boys. You're doing stuff with Invincible. It's incredible, and I can say this personally for me, and I'm sure Jake can attest to this as well. It is really cool to see you succeed. So if you could give us a little bit about what your journey has been like over the last couple of years, I'd love to hear it.
Well, first, I just have to say thank you. I just always appreciate the love and support that you guys always give me. So let me start off by saying that. But it's been chaos, AC. Like, you naming all that stuff, and I also am wondering, like, how are you getting all of this done? But I managed to get it done. It's like Marvel, DC. They hit me up and they say, "Hey, can you write a thing for so and so?" I'm like, yes, I can. Even outside of them, I've gotten to work on some Magic the Gathering, Planeswalker. I wrote a one shot story for them, which was really cool. My Little Pony, just some other things that haven't been announced yet, but are actually like really, really cool. Because if you follow me for a while, like, you know that they're like one of my top interests. So I don't know, like, it's just been a whirlwind, but a whirlwind that I'm thankful that I had the opportunity so far to experience. But it's been a lot, because even like this month, December, right? The Friday of the months has not felt like that at all. There has been no, hey, can we circle back in the new year? It's been, no, we're circling back right now. So can you have this thing in by the end of the week? And, it's just been buckling down and do it. And actually, before I even came on the podcast, I had to hurry up and like save something, because I've had the It happened to me a couple times this year where I was working on something and didn't save it, didn't upload it automatically to my computer, and either the power went out or I just completely forgot that I didn't save it and had to rewrite it again, and that is just not fun at all.
Mm.
Mm.
Go ahead, Jake, if you got something.
I was just gonna ask. I assume you talk about manifesting. You'll use the photo of Professor X with his hands on his temples. How? What is your recommendation for people who want to manifest things? Is it putting your hands on your temples, or I mean, obviously the answer is like hard work, etc., etc. But I assume you have a more interesting answer, or at least a funny answer to that question.
Well, yes, you absolutely should put your hands on your head just for aesthetic purposes. But also, like for me, it's been manifesting through acts. So doing the work, which is not sexy, is not fun or any of that, but doing the work does help. And I say that because it's been sometimes random articles that I wrote years ago that come back and either editor or somebody found it and they're like, oh, hey, you still interested in this? Or I read this and I thought you would be perfect for such and such project. So for instance, Strange and Unsung here, All Stars, like that is something that really came to be. One, because another writer was like, I'm actually, this isn't my thing, but I know someone whose it is. And they thought of me because they thought of all of the articles and deep dives that I've written on characters in the past and some of those kind of comedy leaning. And it just, it all came together. So I don't know if that would have, if this would have been a thing if I wasn't like doing that before. Maybe it would have been, but I would like to believe that, those character deep dives that I was writing all the way back in like 2018 had a role in this.
Yes, and so as video viewers can see, AC's taking running. He's got to take care of something quickly, but I I'm curious with like a project like this, is this when you get the call about it, is it obviously you mentioned that you wrote character deep dives, so is it like, oh my god, I've been preparing for this all my life? Or are you kind of like, I gotta start from square one? Like I think from a very practical sense, there's just this book is so dense and there's so many characters in it that like where do you start? I think is the first question. I assume AC you go running that to like how do you is there a big list that you go to or how does that happen?
Google is your friend. So some of those characters I knew off the bat, I'm like, okay, these are characters that I've stumbled upon, like when I was reading or researching other characters, and I just like remember, like, ooh, they were kind of weird, or they only showed up a couple times, but where are they at? But they had, enough impact that I remembered them, and then everybody else, it was Googling, just who are some like weird characters that people are obsessed with. There was also going back to like Sci-Fi Wire, and when I worked with them, there was a editor there that fast forward was working with him at another company, and I told him about this book, and he was like, "Oh my god, okay, I got a list for you." And I was like, "Do you?" He was like, "Yeah, do you want the list?" Like, "Yeah, I want the list. Help me, like, help us out. Like, and send that list my way. I know I won't be able to use everybody, but it would be a nice start." So really that book came together by using whatever resources I could to just get the list together. And even with that being, when my editor submitted the names of like everyone, that because he also had characters too that he wanted me to include, so we compiled a list of like 170 something characters. A lot of them got to know because DC was like, absolutely not. Or they deemed those characters not strange enough or not unsung enough. But I mean, it's their call. But of course, I'm like, I disagree. And then they had characters that they wanted us to include, some of which I was kind of like, are you sure? Because you pushed back on this one character for, whatever reason. But the character that you want to include, kind of similar in, reasoning that, all right. So it was a lot of that, and I think it came down to like 110 or 115 or something like that, or 120, somewhere around there. But once that list came back and we had it kind of set in stone, I got to work, and actually some characters popped up like Itty and Tana Moon were a couple characters who snuck in I think even Malcolm X, or not, Muhammad X is his name, not Malcolm X. Or it's supposed to be Malcolm X. But anyway, he like popped up in it too last minute, because as I was rereading the issues that Superman and Dr. Claire Foster were in, Muhammad X pops up. I'm like, oh, this is. I'm glad you only showed up one time, buddy, because this is rough. So, and they let me include them. So even the more controversial characters, even like Jet, I was able to include her, which I was really surprised, because they kind of fought me on that one at first. They were like, no, 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 too much negativity. I'm like, I'm not going to talk about it from a negative aspect, because none of these characters I do. I really try to highlight what they brought, what the creators tried to bring for these characters, be it, problematic or not. They still have some value, because a lot of them have been reused today. And as we got a whole movie of them, Suicide Squad and the other Suicide Squad. So there you have it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like just looking through some of these characters, one in particular, especially after watching the Harley Quinn series on Max, Kite Man. And when I found out that Bruno Mannheim eats Kite Man, that was the first thing when I read that. I said, I have to ask you about that. What happened there?
I don't know. I still don't know. I am still kind of like between that, him, and the story of Dog Wilder or
Oh,
Dog Welder.
mm-hmm.
Dog Wilder would have been way better, but Dog Welder, I was like, how did y'all got this okay? Like, he wells dogs to people. How is that? How did that happen? Um, Egg Foo is another one, which was a
Mhm.
doozy. And that's one that they wanted me to keep. And I was just kind of like, again, are y'all sure? And they were sure. So that's how Egg Foo, Kite Man, and also Dog Welder ended up in that book.
Man, I think it is. And, a couple of years ago, you and I had the opportunity to do some of these shows together. Marvel Did What, where we went through old Marvel comics and some of the more interesting and some of the more problematic ones, like the Luke Cage Punisher one.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think about that
it,
a lot.
Every day,
and
Jake. Every
in,
day.
in retrospect, as you go through this book, some of the detached man dude and things along those lines, just the simplistic nature of not only some of these villains, but also some of the just randomness that happens with them. When you talk about what gets okayed, now that you're in this industry, what have you found interesting about that part of it, as you're writing stuff and you're going through editors and they got to okay this and they got to okay that, and then as you were talking about earlier, you go, wait a minute, you okay this but you can't okay that. How do you reconcile with that whole idea of the business?
So I've learned that there's power in I don't even want to say manipulation, but getting people to like agree like it was their
Mm-hmm.
idea all along,
Hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That often works. Kind of like a soft launch of chaos too, depending on what the character is. But for the most part, as far as like anyone that I've tried to introduce, I really haven't had too much trouble, because I'm not trying to do anything like
No.
I mean that chaotic in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it though is thinking about it from, I guess, a bottom line. So like what's going to do well. So like what's gonna look cool, because folks like to post panels and whatnot online. If there's gonna be toys, like does that look cool if you're creating a new character? Power sets. How do
Mm.
those look? Is that gonna look,
Mm-hmm.
visually dynamic, and kind of having that in mind? We're talking specifically about superhero comics. So it's really just kind of knowing who you're working with, what their likes and dislikes are, which you can kind of get away with within reason, and really putting on your best PR marketing hat for whatever it is that you are trying to push through. And sometimes it works. Most of the times it works. In fact, there's something that I'm writing right now where I am actually surprised that they said yes to it,
Mm.
because the story in itself is not serious at all. I think there's farting going on in it in a way that actually
Oh, I'm
helps
intrigued.
the story.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so and I have my son to thank for that, because he's
Hmm.
been reading Dog Man, Cat Kid, and Captain Underpants, and I think there's a full issue of Captain Underpants where he saves the day through farting. So,
That tracks.
yep.
So,
It definitely does. So I said, well, maybe let's use that. But I don't know. I feel like if you tell a solid story and it's tight, like, together, and it flows and there's enough action and stuff, and again, talking about superhero comics, then like you can get away with some stuff.
I think what is cool, and I remember and I told you this already. So when I read Nubia and the Amazons, I thought one of the coolest things was where you had the father daughter kind of conversation
Yeah.
and talk through things. And I remember you talking about your own a relationship with your parents, and how would you describe not only your using the relationship that you have with your parents, but also the relationship that you have with your son, and kind of weaving those things into the stuff that you write? Because I will say it was so touching, and I was like, this had such a deft touch to it, and that's why I had, as soon as I read it, I texted you and I was like, wow, this is really really cool. So it just brings a certain heart to a story that I think for any reader or anybody who's kind of looking for not just it, because it's easy to get lost in how somebody looks or
Mhm.
how their powers go and all of those things, the physicality of it, but something as soft as that moment, especially for black folk. I
Yeah.
think that's like, to see that, to have that relationship displayed that type of way, I thought was beautiful to me. Like, how do you take those things in and be able to convey them in such a wonderful way?
So write what you know. Sometimes that is a
Hmm.
good thing to do. Go ahead and do that, or sometimes write what you wish would happen.
Mm.
And kind of that way too. Whenever I can kind of lean on those real life experiences or just very human elements, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it as much as I can, because, like, to your point, every like feats, uh sure, they're absolutely cool, but for me it's always been what led up to that, and like, why should I be like jumping out of my chair because this character finally did that thing or can do this thing. Because at the very end of the day, like, powers can be taken away. They get taken away all the time. And when those powers are taken away, like, is this character still interesting? And also, I cannot relate to someone like Storm and like her manipulating the weather, but I can relate to a Storm who is questioning um complicated feelings of, am I a goddess? Can I be perfect? What does that look like when I fail? That type of thing. And those have always been a thing, and I feel like for a lot of folks, like, those are the moments with characters where you're just like, oh, this is my fave. And then of course my fave can do all these cool things, but those are also the stories that I go back and I read a lot, like stories that there's a lot of, you know, fights that happen, but nothing more than just throwing fists or the use of powers. And I probably don't go back and read those. Not that they're not good, but like, I don't reread them like that. But stories that, you know, make me either kick my feet up giggling or make me feel like warm and cuddly inside, or piss me off, right? Not even because it's written bad, but because there's like really high emotions going on or something very frustrating going on. Those are the ones that I go back to read. Those are, I think of Mark Wade's Kingdom Come. Like, I
Hmm.
read that I've gone back and I've read that a lot because there's some heavy stuff going on in there, but it's good though. So I try to think of that. I try to think of writers like him, writers like Dwayne McDuffie, where the reason why Justice League, at least for me, Justice League, the animated series, Justice
Yes.
League, and also Unlimited, I go back and I rewatch those episodes so much because you get nothing but like everyone's personalities and the whatever they're dealing with, the soap opera of it all. That's why those shows are just so rewatchable.
Yeah. If there was one episode I regret that we didn't get a chance to do together, was Amazing Spider-Man 700,
Oh yeah.
the one where he's in Dr. Octopus's body and he's on his last legs and he knows he's going to die, and yet he explains to Otto, he's like, "Hey, this is part of the deal. This is the responsibility. This is like the whole 9 yards of it." And you realize in during that whole comic where Spider-Man as Doc Ock is fighting the Sinister Six or whatever it is, and he's he's the unbridled use of his powers. Where
Mm-hmm.
like he punched, I think it was Scorpion, and he punched and broke his jaw. And this is
Yeah,
something that Spider-Man wouldn't do. So then you get a real idea of who Spider-Man is as a hero and who he is as a person, who Peter Parker is. And
absolutely.
when you talk about the depth of those stories, that's where in translating that to the stuff that I see from you and the stuff that I look for in comic books and the thing that drew me to them as a youth, that's the thing that can carry so much weight for kids who read those things. So if I could ask you, is that on your mind when you write these stories, knowing that a young person is going to read this and this can influence them in a specific way?
Every single time, even the silly stuff. Even the story that I'm writing right now that is the absolute goofiest thing. It is centered around this superhero needing to learn how to de-stress. Even all
Mhm.
this crazy stuff is going on. But I'm thinking about that because, or I'm thinking about like some kid picking us up and in between the fart jokes or whatever, thinking and contemplating like, oh, like, so work-life balance is really important. And this is kind of what can happen when you don't pay attention to that. These are the pitfalls, and why it's important to like prioritize yourself. So, yeah, and even when I think that I'm not thinking about it, I'll go back and I'll like read the lettering pads, and I was like, oh wait, it was on my mind. There was a My Little Pony story that I wrote that came out this year called Endless Summer, and it was supposed to be about the main character, Sunny Star Scout, like being sad that summer is getting ready to like leave. That's her favorite season, and it ended up being about grief. And I'm like, how did how did I mix grief into like this fun summer story? But I did because at the very beginning, the reason why she loves summer so much is because it's a season that she really enjoyed with her dad that is no longer with her. So, in a sense, having to let go of summer is like letting go of him all over again because grief is an ever revolving door. So even in something that was supposed to be really fun, which still came out to be really fun, I was kind of tackling grief in that way. So yeah. And I wrote it in a way that I hope that if there was like an 8 or 10-year-old who was dealing with grief would be able to read it and hopefully take something away from it. Because
Uh,
they're comics, supposed to be silly sometimes and all these other things, but like we all know, like we're here because there are some comic stories that we read that just kind of touched us in a way and really helped shape and mold us into the people that we are.
yes, yes. And Jake, you got something?
I was wondering, going back to the book, because I don't have the wide breadth of comic knowledge that y'all do. I'm wondering because I feel like even as someone who doesn't, what never has written, comics, I'm wondering. You said you never pitched a character that got like fully rejected like that, like or like for being too weird. But in like the back of your mind, do you have like a superhero or supervillain character where you're like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever come back to? No, do you mind sharing that, or is it proprietary?
It is proprietary,
Okay, then never mind. But you do have
but
one.
I do, and actually, Jake, that character got the yes, which I am surprised.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
so okay, then
Yeah, and
that's a
it's in the
tease, and I will pre-order.
Yeah. Well, no, you don't even have to pre-order because this will be on a Marvel Unlimited story. So if you have Marvel Unlimited
Mhm.
subscription already, it'll show up in the Infinity Comics. So yes,
You
but
know I
also
don't, but I'll get one.
okay, yeah, please get one.
I see. I see. AC has the Marvel Infinity. I have like 17 movie streaming sites. That's the symmetry of the podcast.
Yeah, that's about right. That's how unfortunately my streaming whole thing looks because Paramount, Peacock, freaking everything. And now
It's.
Mario is on
I
Netflix.
try not to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a whole entire mess for sure.
yeah.
In regards to the book as well, like, because it's such a expansive list
Ugh.
of every single random person and things that you can think of. But I think also at the same time, like when you lead off with Peacemaker, who is somebody who has really come to the forefront in pop culture. I mean, I just saw John Cena do like a brief interview outside of the Iron Claw, and talking about doing season two. I, are you surprised that Peacemaker has kind of taken shape as a character in mainstream media as it has?
So before I did the research, yes. Because like, well, what the heck makes them special, right? But then like after doing the research and just how, it was a character that was acquired from Charlton Comics and how like, oh my God, those damn Infinity Crisis or Infinite Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first one that happens, and him along with the several other characters that DC had acquired were ushered into the universe in a very unique way that I am still kind of wild at once you look at the like just the entire first Infinity Crisis or Infinite Crisis. It feels like Infinity Crisis, but Infinite Crisis,
Crisis on Infinite Earths,
yeah,
Infinite Crisis,
all these
Final
other
Crisis.
crises.
Like
Yeah.
there are so many crises.
But the very first one, and the way that it was done, it was just so masterful because you could tell that everybody was in on this and just the very unique ways that they bring all these characters in. And Peacemaker is a character now or a character that I feel like is perfect for now because of what he embodies. He's similar to a Homelander, not in like the very evil milk drinking sociopath, like that's not him, but in a way where on the surface level he seems like somebody that, you know folks that showed up for January 6th would like want to root for. But actually, no, once you really get to know him, he doesn't stand for any of that. Similar to like Cap, right? Like
Mhm.
just because he holds the shield and it's got the American flag and everything on it doesn't mean that he is always subscribing to American ideals.
Yeah.
So I think now, no, it's not surprising at all that he's as popular as he is. It's like it's a perfect time for a character like that to exist, to kind of subvert a lot of these
Mhm.
ideals that you think a character who looks like him would have.
I also feel like he's perfect for a world that's been had so many comic book movies because he kind of is like the comedic logical extension of the criticism a lot of people have of like what like the thing with like in Avengers Infinity War, like why don't you just kill Vision and to prevent the Stone Forever. Peacemaker's whole thing is like, why don't we just kill every single person that might prevent? Like, it is like the logical. It's a joke of like, if you actually believed that preventing casualties at any cost was like, it is like the rebuttal of that idea.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to sound, I don't know philosophy enough to say that he is a logical extension of utilitarianism, but that kind of is what the joke feels like.
Yeah,
And
that's what it feels like.
and then the thing I like about the characters you dive in more is like a lot of people who have very firm stances like that. They have those firm stances because they're afraid to make decisions in the moment because they're so insecure themselves. So he has to have that rigid moral framework or else he'll be lost. Because when he
Yeah.
doesn't have that, he doesn't know what the hell to do with himself.
No, he doesn't. He's running around in his underwear fighting folks in their apartment. That first season was really
Yeah.
good.
And,
Oh
and,
man, it
and
was.
speaking of which,
Yeah.
by the way, we can't forget.
Yeah.
It's still it says your name on it, big, obviously, and you did way more work. But we can't forget the fact that this does have a forward from James Gunn. Now, no, assume you called him up. You got stuff like, yo, Jimbo, do you mind writing a few lines?
No, so like the way that came about, my editor very early on, I think like a week or two within us like actually starting on this was like, oh, like I'm gonna try to get James Gunn for the Ford. I was like, oh, perfect, because the book originally was called like Heck Yeah, Peacemaker, Strange and Unsung All Stars or Characters of the DC Multiverse. They changed the name, of course, but it just made sense. Like he would be somebody to be perfect for that. And then the news came out that he was taking over like the whole DCEU. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So this actually works perfectly now for this book. And by then he had already written for it and everything. So I, now that was kind of manifesting through the universe, I guess. In that was a like a Xavier Hive, like my touching my temples type of thing. I think that happened. And it was perfect. And then he tweeted the book, and I was not expecting that. In fact, no one was expecting that until he tweeted it. So I'm talking about the publisher, my editor, everyone. They were like, "Oh, great! This is wonderful." So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what can come from this. I'm hoping that Mr. Gunn actually read the book all the way and is like, "That's Stephanie."
I
I
can
I
definitely
like that
see, like, a lot of times when
cover.
you read, like, blurbs, like, there's, like,
Mhm.
an open secret that, like, Stephen King will blurb anyone's book without reading it, but, like, I can imagine James Gunn enjoying this book. Like, it
Yeah,
really
I
feels
Feels like
like
this is
legitimately
up
hope
his
he's
alley.
so.
something he
Like,
would read.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
especially with all of the stuff that he's doing at DC Studios, he's doing I think it's the Creature Commandos. That's the animated series that's coming out, and he's putting the Authority in Superman Legacy. So, like, all of these characters that we don't know things about, some of the more quote unquote unsung characters that are coming through in his DC universe and the way that he wants to shape it. I will manifest that for you.
thank
I
you.
am.
I appreciate that because who was it? The well, I am blanking on their name. So the rock group that is in the book. Um Not the Creature Commandos, of course, but it's they kind of remind me of the Scooby Doo gang, but not really. 'Cause they're all monsters. And I am wow, this is really terrible. I wrote this book and I don't remember these people. But anyway,
If you can give me any of their names, I can Google it.
I don't recall, and I'm
Well,
not good like the rest of y'all. Rest of like you and AC, and actually have my own book in front of me. Actually, I do
and
have.
how many books have I written, though? That's the thing.
Fair point, Jake. Fair point. Actually, do I have? No, that is just the cover. I thought I had a PDF of this. Oh, I do. Here we go.
You gotta.
It's
Okay,
always fun
let's
to
see
go.
if I can find them
While
because
you're doing that, I just want to
yeah.
do a quick sell on this book because I,
Yes.
as
Please.
people know, am not a voracious comic book reader. I brought this book into work on a Monday, which was a slow day generally. I get into work at 8:30, and I finished the book before noon. I just was
I love it.
running through it, and that's not to say it's like light. It's very dense. I also, frankly, am a pretty fast reader, but it's just like a lot of great stuff. And the thing about it, which I really loved, is a lot of times when you read like these different encyclopedias of like characters in any sort of medium, it feels like it's written by committee. This book feels like it was written by friend of the show Stephanie Williams. Like it feels I hear you talking when I read the book, and that is
Yeah.
like bravo. Like that is the thing because I didn't grow up with these characters. I don't know what jack shit, but I do know that I like hearing my friend Stephanie talk about comic books, and that's what this book is in hardcore cover form.
Well, I appreciate that because I had to fight to keep my voice in this book because you're right. Like a lot of times these books do sound like they were written by committees. And sometimes that's at no fault of the author or whoever wrote it. It's really more so because you got like so many people looking at this whatever that book is, and they have their own interpretations and they, want to make it as neutral as possible. And I'm like, neutral's fine, but neutral's also really boring. So again, like I was never going to talk about these characters in like a very negative way, but I just wanted to highlight the things that I found very interesting about them, instead of just kind of going through their comic history and saying, "Hey, so." Here's something that you probably could have just read on Wikipedia, but it's in book form. So here you go. Because who, like, I don't want to read that. And I hope no one else will want to read that.
No, no. I mean, to Jake's point, like hearing the way that you describe somebody like the Condiment King, it's finally, which is kind of like finally cool to get a little bit of more of a backstory beside, because it's just something that you search the character online, and you're just like, why is this person a thing? Why is this
Yeah.
person? I don't understand. Like, why did they
What?
decide to do this? And then you have what you wrote, and then you get a bit of at least a better understanding. And in fact, that even though he's a little bit of a goofball, he's a little bit more formidable than you would think.
Question, Steph, is the group you're thinking of Scare Tactics? Is that it?
Yes. Oh my God.
Okay.
And I actually just finally scrolled to them. So yes,
Okay.
Scare
I was looking
Tactics.
too. I remember a group of monsters.
It was gonna
And
drive me
so
crazy. But yeah, Scare Tactics. I was like really kind of obsessed with them because I was like, why? Like, why are we not getting more of this?
yeah, honestly, that was my thought when I was reading it. This is like, these are pretty rad.
Right? Even like their manager being this guy who was like really into like conspiracy theories and
Mhm.
stuff, I thought was really cool. And that's how, because he ends up being the one that kind of break them out and becomes their band manager. I don't know. It's cool if I can help it. I have pitched a couple things to say, hey, can we bring this back? So fingers crossed, maybe that'll happen one day. But yeah, like they're just, it's them, the Justice League of Antarctica. I had
Mhm.
2 stories that I was like, hey, if y'all want pitches for them, I've got it. Like, let's
Mhm.
bring Nort back to be like leader of the Justice League. But I know right now DC is, you know what, the Justice League isn't really cool right now. It's all Titans. Like
Mm-hmm.
they don't want anything to like really reference the Justice League. So I'm like, we can call them something else. We can call them the
Mhm.
Iceberg Group. I don't care. Like, just let me
Ooh, the
write,
Iceberg Group.
right? Let me write some Justice League of Antarctica
The
because
Antarcticons. I'm just
I love
spitballing.
that.
You can
I will
take that.
credit. I'll credit you, Jake.
Thank you, thank you,
I'll
thank
make
you.
you the quotes. Yes.
All right, so I one of the characters I did want to ask about was Matter Eater Lad, because
Me too. I was thinking like the one character I want to talk about is Magic Here Lad.
because the photos in this book, for example, like you see right here, oh my gosh, like the dude is just eating a cave or part of a cave.
Mhm.
What is happening with this guy?
You know, AC, you know, I've heard this a quote. He will eat the table.
He literally will.
Hashtag table leader.
And then also I found it kind of funny too because if I'm not mistaken and my mind is working the way that it should, like he has a very serious arc that ends up happening, or he ends up like
Yes,
saving
he's
the
in
day
it.
in a
I
very
remember you
serious
saying he
way.
was in more than I thought he was going to be in. He's like an important character for a little bit, it feels like.
Yes.
He gets a serious stomach infection, and I mean,
It
what
did.
I mean,
And he's
what I
not
mean,
supposed to be
I'm
having get one
surprised that it
either.
took that long. I mean, goddamn.
There are a few him there are like a few other characters in the book where I'm reading. I'm like, wait, you were part of some pretty serious things. Like, why are you not still around? But you know why? Damn crisis. It was the
I just
crisis that got him,
he's from the planet Bismol, which is
which I
not on
thought
the
was
nose
so
at all.
funny. That cracked me right
And
on
that's
up.
right. They wanted him to be like a senator or something, or
No, he
something
was a
along those lines.
senator on the
He
planet
was a
Bismol.
senator. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, this
The
guy.
DC comics, like their like interstellar, planetary, cosmic stuff is just insane. Because like a lot
Wow.
of these characters that showed up for Legion of Superheroes, they come from these like planets that someone took a lot of time developing, like to tell you like what the atmosphere is like, what the
Mhm,
culture is like, what they wear, what they eat,
mhm,
how they evolved to come to
mhm,
be. And I just found that so fascinating. It's like, man, like, is anyone doing it like this these days? Like putting all of this thought into this planet where this one character is from. We're never gonna go there again,
mhm.
probably.
Yeah.
Yep.
And putting all this work into like the origin of their origin story. It was quite fascinating. And then Mr. Jack
Uh,
Kirby almost
yeah.
broke my brain with Black Racer. It took me like a full week to try to like write that passage because it was so big brain and it was just galaxy mind in a way. I'm like, maybe I don't know how to talk about this because it's like it's
Mm-hmm.
really heavy.
Oh my gosh!
You
I
talk
mean,
about death, like
yeah, there's
okay,
a
like
couple. There's a
casually.
couple of the Ragdoll Junior or Ragdoll. I mean, goodness gracious!
Yeah, even I was like, I can't put a
You gotta
comical negative
apply.
on
He gotta
this.
apply the. You gotta apply the lube or whatever it is to keep make sure his joints is working properly.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah, to make sure
goodness
his skin
gracious!
doesn't rip. I'm like, oh my
I
god, this is
mean,
terrible.
if anyone can relate, I mean,
Ah, hashtag.
you were setting me up. I thought you were
Yeah,
Hashtag.
gonna
that
say
was
it.
set up.
Wow, I threw it off the glass and
You did. It was a nice little
Exactly.
vibe.
yeah, hashtag watch the agenda. But yes, oh my goodness. But that's the thing, like I feel like when I read this book, I get such a reminder of something like when I see Doom Patrol. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so this is why stuff like this can get made, and this is why stuff like that can go through. Because when you, just for example, in watching Doom Patrol, learning about these characters and kind of their tragic backstories and everything that they've had to deal with, um, you would have not expected with a farting goat that opens up a dimension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's when I first watched that first episode. I was like, I don't know anything about these fools, and I see that, and I'm like, yo, what's happening here? But then you really find out, like, yo, they have so much depth to all of their stories. So, like, this book is just like an example of that, where I mean, the detached dude who detaches his arms,
It's a
the
whole
dude,
family of them, which I had
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
no idea.
and a whole group. The dude who flattens himself to the dude who just is flat. He can't. He wants to be a Justice League hero or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
But they said like we have no use for you because all you do
Oh,
is
they
just get
are
flat.
mean. So the Legion of Superheroes are so mean. I mean, before American Idol or
Mm-hmm.
Simon Cowell or any of them, like they were just jerks. I'm like, oh my god, like this person just traveled light years away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the amount of times that in an entry would say like, and he tried out for the Legion of Superheroes and was roundly rejected. And one of two things that would happen: either he joined like a worse group, or it's like, and that made him a villain because he was so mad at the Legion of Superheroes.
Oh man, it's just really wonderful stuff. Was there any specific character that when you looked up their backstory that you said, "Wow, this is kind of wild, even for the normal"?
Oh, that was quite a. I think Dog Welder was the one because,
Mm-hmm.
like, what? Like, why? Like, why are you doing this?
He's
The
welding dog.
Because how do you even find out that that is something that you can do? Like, what is the thought process there?
Mm-hmm.
It was him. Actually, even Shark King, because I
Mm-hmm.
completely forgot that he was like eating pieces of his mom.
Mm.
Like, she,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's real.
Yeah.
which I was like, oh, okay, sure, that's fine. Tana Moon and like the whole thing with her and Superboy
Mm.
and like his age technically being like what 14, 15, and she's like a grown woman and it was
Mm-hmm.
like, huh, all
Exactly.
right.
Todd Haynes stole Main December from that.
Yeah,
That reference was just on my
I was like,
mind.
damn, all right, well that's the 90s for you.
And one thing that's also in a lot of it is you have obviously a lot of like the crazy sci-fi weird ones, and I really enjoy too. You have a lot of like the early ones where like the powers, frankly, they just didn't know what made good superhero powers, and some of them were just kind of stupid. And I think I liked about that though, and you talk about how you don't want to make fun of these things, and I think it really came through that like with the early ones, there was obviously like the reverence for like these people were just trying to figure it out and trying to make it work, and then when there were things that were problematic, like you kind of it felt like you both wanted to respect the people who made it because like most of the people weren't being malicious, and also you respected the readers enough or you didn't need to hit us over the head like, isn't it bad that this person has stereotypes? Like I felt that was really nice because like we know why some of these characters are offensive, we're not stupid. And so I liked that it didn't feel like it neither felt like it was super sanded down to fit corporate standards, nor did it feel like it was like the make fun of DC characters show.
Yeah, I mean, because Eggleman, That's ridiculous. Goldface?
Go.
What? the the tattoo man, there's like 5
Oh
of
my
them or
god,
3
him!
of
I
them.
saw him and I was just like, yo, what?
And he
Him.
was like pissed at who was it, Green Lantern,
Yeah.
because it was his fault that he
It
got his
seems like a lot
powers.
of these folks are not happy with Green Lantern in this book.
Oh,
Like,
Green Lantern has so much beef with everyone. It's like no
Mhm.
wonder Hal is like all over the place.
Mhm.
Even Flash, because Colonel Compitron or
oh
Compitron or
yeah.
whatever was my favorite because you don't know if it was the dad, the mom, or the daughter
Mhm.
who did it. Who was a who done it. But the fact that that was kind of rooted in the father not standing up to his boss, or so his wife thought, and like her being pissed about that, and then like the daughter being upset because like no one's paying attention to her. So like at all this family drama, and like, oh, supervillain who
Mhm.
can't stand
Wow.
the Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those there's a lot of those simple ones like Abracadabra,
Mhm.
dude from the future, trying the magic tricks, and it's like, let me go back to the past and see if I can get this done because I ain't getting over with these
Which
That
folks.
is
honestly,
just
that is a good idea. Like that, I heard that and I'm like, that was the one that I'm like, I'm mad I didn't think about that.
yeah, that like much respect to you.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, this was just really it was a joy to read. Um, and yeah, I mean, I really recommend it to anyone who's a fan of the show. I feel like tonally,
Yeah.
it is the perfect mix of it's irreverent, but also like takes the stuff seriously, which I think is why you gel with us, why we get along. Is I think
Yeah.
we both have that. We all have that aspect of it, and yeah, I mean, I would love to see more of the stuff. Obviously, I know you're doing so many big and great things, but if anyone from DC Publishing is listening, if you ever have any opportunities like this again, please let Steph
Hey.
do it again because this was really really fun to read, and I learned a lot about a lot of people. Specifically, once again, the photo on the cover of Mad Reader Man eating the fence is definitely
Oh
my
my
favorite
Like he's
god.
going
thing.
to town on that fence too.
Mwah.
Like what in the world? I would love to do a Marvel version of this.
That was going to be my question: is who would be someone that would be in there? Now, I will say I know I'm already hearing friend of the show Hunter or DC saying that Manphibian has to be in there, but other than him,
Mhm.
who else would be in the Marvel version?
So many X-Men. I mean, so many mutants, I should say. So many of them. That I am blanking on their names.
What's
So
the one I've
basically
heard of where it
all
has
of
like the guy has like the blue stomach mouth in his stomach? Isn't there an X-Men who's like that?
yeah, yep, he would be there. Basically anybody who isn't on the main team would be would be in that book. Definitely some of the cosmic Marvel characters, a bunch of Spider-Man villains, like that one guy who built a giant wheel. He just
Uh,
built a giant wheel and was like wheeling around the city destroying stuff.
all
And
right,
so
let me see this.
Spider-Man had to like
His name is Jackson Wheel,
yeah.
and it's his yeah. And yeah, he this is just so stupid. Yep, I'm looking at the photo of the wheel. It's dumb.
Makes no sense. He would definitely be in that
Yeah.
because why not?
Oh my
God,
gosh.
his name is Jackson Wheel, Weele, and his alias is Big Wheel. No one's gonna put that together.
I mean, how can you not love that?
I love it so much. Yeah,
'Cause,
that's
I
just
mean, because it's like, because the way that I see it, like I feel like as a creative, you were whoever, like the whoever co-created that character was kind
Mm.
of like, we're in New York, traffic,
hmm
traffic, tire,
hmm
business tycoon, big wheel. My daughter wanted a big wheel for. There we have it, Jackson Wheel. Because sometimes that's how I come up with characters. It's just like a very like this most recent one. I was like, what if a supervillain was gonna steal something out of a supermarket? What would it be? And
hmm
then that character came to me. I cannot wait for you guys to meet that person because it is absolutely bonkers. Because like, why do you exist? You exist because I like made it so.
Yeah, I was gonna say like at the top of the show, I mentioned everything that you're writing, but also some of the stuff that you're doing outside of that. So what, like as far as the boys, you've been doing the boys, the Gen V stuff, the Invincible stuff. What has that been like for you? Because I really get a kick out of your deep dives into some of these characters.
That has been actually very fun. The boys has been, psychic damage all the time because I have to go back and read the comics. So I might be one
Oh
of a
boy,
handful of people who have actually like read those comics and
that's
oof,
tough.
yeah.
That's
For
tough.
Invincible, that's been actually really fun because a lot of it is shot for shot for something. So I'm doing a lot of the Leonardo DiCaprio, like, ooh, I know what that is. Um, and it's been fun because like I've been able to do like the character deep dive. So basically kind of doing what I do before, but for Amazon, I can actually do like a voiceover instead of having to, you know, I still have to write, but I can talk about it instead of having to post it, which has been really cool. And it's been nice to be able to watch these shows before they come out. Like Gen V, that was great. I couldn't talk to anybody about it for
Yeah.
months, but like it was really cool to watch that ahead of time. Now that they have DC property stuff, which I completely forgot about it. I knew that it was said in like a meeting, but I forgot. And then like when Merry Little Batman was like on the roster, I was like, oh wait, what? So getting to watch that and again, like that was an easy thing to put together because these are all characters I'm insanely unnecessarily familiar with. But it was also like kind of cool to see those characters in like this setting and like to kind of talk about them in a different way than what I normally would. So it's been fun. It's been fun to kind of still do the comic book thing, but in a different format. I feel like at least for a writer or for me as a writer, like it just helps to kind of do things in that way. And it's not just always scripting comics, which is great, but I think it's important for me to like do other stuff too.
Yeah, stay well rounded
Yeah.
and that whole and that whole deal. Yeah, I think it's funny when you and I ran into each other at Comic Con. You had said that you had not watched anything MCU over the past, I think, year and change and something
It has
along those
changed a
lines.
little bit.
Oh, it has. So what have you watched?
So and we have my son to thank for this, the Marvels.
Ah,
So
I
I
needed you to
had
see Monica
no
Rambeau on the big
plans.
screen. I needed it for you.
Yeah, I'm happy that he was the reason why we ended up going to see it, because that was really great. It was really great to
nice.
see her powers, because when she powered up from that guy's, shock stick or whatever it was and, like, punched him and then flew through him and then, like, punched him again, I was like, "Okay, this is pretty dope." Even the cats, right? The
Mm-hmm.
Flurkins, right?
Oh, shout out to
How
Flurkin always.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, how they went about using that as a way to like transport people, I thought was kind of really cool in a very like I would have wrote that in a comic, and I thought that was really fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also Loki. So I have not watched all of season 2 yet, but I did watch that one episode that was all messed up where we have Miss Minutes and uh
Horny Miss
what's
Minutes.
Yeah, and Victor Timely.
yeah, but it's Miss Minutes and like they murder people and I was like, wait,
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, also this is episode 4, I believe.
I think it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
episode 4, because everyone's talking about it. I was like, whatever. I haven't watched the season yet, but like, let me just watch this. And I was like, oh, oh, shit. Oh,
There's some
well,
context that I think episode 3 would provide about why Miss Minutes is so crazy that I think would be
yeah.
helpful.
I'm gonna go back
I would
to
recommend
watch
it.
that.
I know
Yeah,
your
I'm
time
gonna.
is valuable, but if you want to
No, no, no.
understand Miss Minutes in that episode more, there's some stuff that happens in episode 3.
Yeah,
Quite,
because I was like,
quite,
yeah. She was
quite
like, where did she
shocking.
get this unhinged? So
Wow,
but I feel
season
like
2
getting
episode 3.
Jake, I promise to like actually
Oh,
binge the rest of
yeah.
Loki.
No
Like,
pressure. I mean, you're much busier than I am, but if you enjoyed that or had some questions,
I really enjoyed it, and I had so many questions, so I will be
Yeah.
watching. And I know What If is supposed to be dropping, so
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
I will be checking
once
that
a
out.
day for 8 consecutive days starting December
And
22nd.
did we tell the listeners that we're going to be recovering it all at the end? Because AC and I are not going to be taking time out of our Christmas festivities to
Yeah,
record
it's
those
tough,
episodes.
man. Yeah, holidays, vacation
Yeah,
time.
because
Yeah,
there's not
the
going to
other
be basically. I don't have video capabilities because I'm just going to bring my laptop.
so
I'm going to bring my laptop, which is like the in case someone important dies, in case But so I can't do a video for What If. So we'll do it when I get back to New York on
yeah, so
January
we
2nd.
will right. So we will bring you what if coverage to start the new year, and then of course we're gonna roll right into Echo. And
I'm looking
as
forward to Echo.
yeah,
Yeah.
Echo looks
Mm.
interesting to me, and it seems like 2024 is going to be heavy in Marvel animation. We got X Men '97. We got the Spider Man Friendly Neighborhood Spider Man series coming out, and the new Wakanda series, the new animated Wakanda series, is coming out this in 2024 as well, which that should be interesting. So kind of
Oh,
looking forward to it. They haven't given us a lot of details on it, but it is coming out in 2024. So that is something to look forward to, as well as What If in next week. So that
Mm-hmm.
Marvel is definitely had to transition off of what was a tough year for them,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
we're headed into an animation. And listen, I will say this, and I've kind of always said this as far as the writing is concerned at Marvel. I'm just saying, if they want to try and get their writing on target and get it a little better, we have somebody who's on currently on the line with us who can
Mm-hmm.
probably do that pretty well, especially if they're bringing characters like the X Men to the forefront in the not so
Mm.
distant
I
future.
would love it.
Mm, mm,
Yes.
mm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Also, I will say, what if we make fun of it, but we're gonna enjoy it? I wish they were doing it
Oh yeah,
weekly again. Because the thing about doing it weekly was that it was a fun show to talk about weekly. We got so many of the best moments of the show out of that. They kind of really screwed us. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, this is the thing, Steph. Before we go, like the way that they are now, kind of adjusting and rejiggering certain things, like Echo's coming out as a binge model, 5 episodes immediately. Everything is available. Something that we're not used to. And obviously the What If model, 1 episode a day for 8 consecutive days. Like a lot of changes are going on with the product. Basically, our entire 2023 has been examining what has gone wrong
So
over
much.
the so
Mm-hmm.
much, so many things
So
in the
much.
news, outside of the news, just like all over the place. It has been quite a journey for this studio as they try and recover and see if Deadpool 3 can kind of get things back on track for them, which we'll see.
I think
Everybody
it
and their mama
will.
is rumored to
Yeah,
be in that.
I think I don't. Will it get it back on track for them? I don't know. Will it make a lot of money? Yes, because I think there's
That part.
a huge contingent of young teen boys that will see it that don't give a shit about the Marvels. To be honest, that's the problem. But yeah.
No, but you're but you're right, Jake. And like that's been the problem too. Because they had so much success early on, didn't really have any competition like
Mm-hmm.
that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've been able to kind of like rest on their laurels and
Mm-hmm.
just coast. And now coasting is just not going to work because they
No.
do have competition. And I mean, I don't even mean like directly from the DCEU, like just in
No.
general when it comes to like movie going, because people aren't really going to the movies like that like they used
No.
to.
Yeah,
You got stuff on streaming, but there's a lot of other great stuff on streaming, so we don't have to watch
Mm-hmm.
Disney Plus. I mean, Apple TV in itself has they've been doing some things because that got
Monarch.
good,
Listen. Mm.
Silo, Severance, all of that. They've got competition, so I hope
Yeah.
they get back
I
to the
I
hardest
think
story.
that because I made Steph, I made a couple months before the Marvels came out. I made the prediction that I thought that the Battle of Starbirds and Stakes was going to outgross it, possibly by $100 million. And I was, it's not going to be quite $100 million, but I was correct in that. And I think that that's instructive in that what the Battle of Starbirds and Snakes, even though it's slightly underperformed, but like I think that the original expectations were a little high just because no one's going to the movies anymore. Is that
Yeah.
like it justified why a random person would want to see it? Whereas like I couldn't explain to like my casual Marvel fan family why they should see the Marvels, even though I liked
Yeah.
it. But it's like, who are these characters? Yada yada yada. And I think that they need to get back to that. Like, I think that like they got lucky with being able to get people to see Captain Marvel because the people wanted to see what happened with Infinity War and Endgame. But like, they need to start being like, these are why you like these characters. These are why these characters are important. And these characters aren't important because of another movie. These characters are important because of this movie. And you need to see it now in theaters and not Disney Plus.
I can't agree more.
Yeah.
I cannot agree more. So hopefully, like, they figure it out. I was actually very surprised that they shelved Ironheart because I felt like, I mean, unfortunately, because of that old model, like people were interested in her because they saw Wakanda Forever, and they were like, "Well, you're not gonna get this show." So
Well, you're
good
not.
luck.
Well, okay. So
Yeah.
from what I understand, we're gonna get Ironheart in 2025. There,
Yeah.
something that's been shot, post production, everything. They just decided that next year is gonna be about Deadpool 3 animation, and oh yeah, I forget the Agatha show that is
Is it
supposed
Agatha
to
Diaries or something now?
yeah,
You know, like
They're
it
changing
sounded.
it. It's
they've
gotten worse
changed it
every
like
time.
45 times.
Oh my god, it
But
sounded
yeah,
real
so
CW ish, and
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
I will maintain till the day I died that House of Harkness was the best title, and
I
that was the first
agree.
one they kept changing it.
yeah, so we'll see what happens with that, but I mean, to each of your points, I mean, it's kind of something that we've just overall been talking about as far as like storytelling is concerned. Part of, if you want to continue long-term storytelling, you do have to tell the stories that are directly in front of you at the time being,
Mm-hmm.
without short shrifting those characters. And I mean, we talked about it, something like Secret Invasion. We were able to make fun of it for 6 weeks, but then at the same time, it's just like, yo, what are they doing? It's almost like they wasted 6 weeks of
Yeah.
their, or the waste of their time and $200+ million of their budget making
Mm-hmm.
something
Yeah.
that it seems like they just did not care about.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what 2024 looks like, but the main thing about this podcast and this show
Mm-hmm.
is that Stephanie Williams is doing great things in the world,
Thank
and
you. Thank you.
No, I
we're
have
happy
no
to
concerns about the future success of Stephanie Williams.
Well, thank you.
Ex-
I really appreciate that. Well,
exactly.
if the comics gate folks and
Oh yeah, I
yeah.
I I tried to read up because I saw you tweeting about that, and I like clicked like looked at some trends, and I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? I don't
Yeah,
exist in this world.
don't do anything. And even I had to be like, you know what? It's not my business. So like let me just get out of this. So anyway, no, I will be here
Yeah.
telling whatever stories I can tell, and we'll see. Hopefully someone's writer's room for an animated show, preferably. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, Steph, I would love to thank you for your time and taking the time to join
Of
us this
course.
evening. Much appreciated. Happy to have you. I got so much stuff. We got this right here. We got Strange and Unsung All Stars. I got my Captain America, which Steph signed at Comic-Con 750 right here. I got Nubia in the Amazons too as well. Steph is writing everything. She's doing everything out here in
Had to
these streets.
reach for the newbie in the Amazons.
Yeah, thank
Yes,
you.
there you go. So many wonderful things that we're so proud of you. We're so like happy for you. And if there's possibly anything that I missed that I didn't plug, do you have anything else that you would like to plug?
Oh yes, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, Wreck
Okay.
and Roll. The graphic novel will be out April 2nd. Very excited about that because like I'm just obsessed with middle grade stuff right now. And stay tuned. I think I should be able to tweet about it in January, but some really exciting stuff that I got to do. I'm just waiting for them to like say, "Hey, you can finally talk about it." So, yeah, I think that's it. I hope that's it.
And where
We'll
can the
find
people
out.
find you?
You can still find me on the app formerly known as Twitter. Also Instagram and TikTok at Steph_I_Will. And I'm there. I'm there sometimes. I try not to be because it's so terrible. It's so awful. It's so awful these
Yeah,
days.
I was thinking about this the other day. Like the world is in such a
It's yeah.
it's in a place right now.
Yeah.
And once again, I looked on Threads today, and I looked on Blue Sky. I want to leave Twitter so badly, but they don't have the juice. What do you want? Threads
No.
is algorithm timeline, no go. And the fact is, the point I've been making about Blue Sky is there's no one on Blue Sky right now that would tweet that a stack a month is 26K a year. And if you don't have that type of person, it can't be Twitter. It's only smart people on there. Like we need some dumb people on there. I'll leave if we get the dumb people on Blue Sky. I'll leave, but I can't do it now.
I agree,
You know,
Drake. I wasted G Willow Wilson's invite code that she sent me. I was like, "Thank you, Miss Willow Wilson," but I'm not going to Blue Sky.
That is an incredible name drop, and I love it. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I brought it up because like I wanted to prove the point that like not even that could
No.
make me like go to Blue Sky.
No.
Wonderful stuff, Stephanie. Jake, where can we find you?
You can find me at the J Christie on Twitter. Listen to my other podcast, Love It for a Psych, and actually on that feed, people who are tweeting at me, reminding me as if I didn't already know, they just made a Monk movie on Peacock. And so, actually later tonight, so tomorrow, the same day this is coming out, Andre and I's review of Mr. Monk's Last Case will be up. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about that. It's been many years. I was in middle school when Monk ended, so it's exciting to finally have a movie to talk about. So yeah, tune into that.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at AnthonyCanton_3. Follow the show on all platforms at MC University Pod. Of course, the Patreon, like I mentioned, we got some stuff on the way there, some stuff already up there if you want to listen to that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, get those subscriptions up. Let's try and get to 200 at some point. I would love to see those numbers get there. And of course, appreciate everybody for supporting and listening in the meantime. And yeah, we'll try and bring you something. What If will come in early 2024. We will get to that. We will review that and then echo and then get into everything else that's happening in the MCU and abroad. For Stephanie Williams and Jake Christie, I'm Anthony Canton III. This has been Marvel Cinematic University, and we will talk to you next time.